What's up, Earth Rockers? It's your boy Shovatar here to talk about Maxim mode, the alternate mode for Harmony of Dissonance. Conceptually very similar to Richter mode from Symphony of the Night, or Julius mode from Aria of Sorrow, if you're more familiar with that. It's the no inventory, high octane, high movement, high power, alternate mode for the game. And it is my favorite of all the alternate modes that I've tried. Because it takes one of the best aspects of Harmony of Dissonance, that being its really high speed, fast-paced movement, and it amps it up even more, as you can clearly see. It's my understanding that speed runs of Maxim mode, I believe, are in the 16-minute range. So that should give you an idea of what like a fully optimized run of this mode is like. And just to be absolutely clear what a full mode of Maxim mode entails, this is not like Richter mode in Symphony of the Night where you can just skip to the last boss. The only way to get access to Dracula in Maxim mode is to kill every single boss. So if you can imagine blazing through both castles and killing all bosses in 16 minutes, that's how fast Maxim can go. That's not how fast I'm gonna go, of course, because I'm not quite at that level. But the basics of Maxim mode are, as you can see, you have an instant, practically instant sword attack, which is interesting in and of itself, because the way the alternate modes worked in Symphony of the Night and the way they work in Aria of Sorrow is that you have a protagonist with a sword, and then the alternate mode you have a whip. Here it's the opposite. I mentioned in my Circle the Moon video that Hugh was intended to be a playable character, and I do wonder if this is the kind of thing they were thinking of. Or if it was just supposed to be like more like the base game with all the same RPG mechanics and DSS systems and inventory stuff, but just with Hugh instead of Nathan. I don't know. Maybe somebody out there knows. Maybe the devs out there have talked about it. But anyway, if that is what they had in mind, it's a shame they didn't finish it, because I think that would make one of the biggest problems of Circle of the Moon was the bad movement, and having like a character who was more focused on having really, really fast, really smooth movement would probably be more fun than the base game, but oh well. Yeah, the basics of Maxim mode are Maxim can triple jump instead of double jump, and it's actually a little bit more complicated than that. He can also do a, as you can see, I'll be doing it in several places throughout the run, although in fewer places than I think I could be doing it. He has like an infinite somersault that is only limited by the MP that you have. The somersault drains your MP. And then the only other way to utilize your MP is Maxim has one magic spell that he can use, which is kind of like, it's not anything he actually does in the Maxim fight in the regular game, but it's something he does where he'll basically summon clones of himself and do like a bunch of damage to everything on the screen. You're never going to see that because I couldn't quite figure out the input combo for it. So it's kind of like Richter mode all over again, but unlike Richter mode, I think Maxim mode is plenty of fun without the without that particular ability. Because what sucked about Richter mode is the fact that you had to do a button combo to do the fun movement for it, whereas in Maxim mode, the fun movement is very easy to do without any kind of complex inputs. Here, I'm not going to go through the portal. Here, I'm just discovering it so I can come back to it later. That's part of my route. Because like I said, you have to go through both castles, and the way that I have it lined up is I go through basically one castle all the way through, and then the second castle all the way through, which is maybe not super optimal, but again, I'm not trying to like super hyper optimize this, although I do think it would probably be fun to do. And this is probably really fun to speedrun, just probably because of how like fast-paced it is, rather. So yeah, I don't use the magic spell that he has. I only use MP for somersaulting. And as a result, my goal is to try to basically use somersaulting as often as I can, so that way every time I kill a boss and I have my MP fully restored, I'm making sure that I'm utilizing it. Instead of different sub-weapons like Juiced, Maxim has one sub-weapon. He has his big shuriken from the boss fight, which is okay. It's good in a fight like this because it does what you want a sub-weapon to do in this fight, which is clear out the shit on the ground. I talked about sub-weapons in I've talked about like why sub-weapons are good and what makes a sub-weapon good or what makes a sub-weapon bad. What makes a sub-weapon good is if it increases your range of influence, if it does things that you couldn't do with your default attack. And Maxim's Shuriken does do that. It covers ground that his normal sword doesn't, and of course it has a longer range, so it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't have any particular problems with it. Yeah, a lot of this game, a lot of like the optimization of this mode seems to be figuring out when and how aggressively to use your somersault. Like I could be using it. There we go. Yeah. As you can see, it's not just like it's not just it's not like the slide kick where if you want to go through enemies you have to kill them. With the somersault you just go straight through enemies whenever you use it. So I think probably the difference maker in terms of like a good run or a bad run of Maxim mode is how well you utilize that. I'm not like going out of my way to pick up like heart expansions or energy tanks because I'm fairly sure the energy tanks don't do anything besides heal you. And I don't know if the heart expansions increase your max hearts or not. Either way, it doesn't particularly matter because I don't make very aggressive use of the Shuriken. Just because it's not. I mean, maybe I should have, but I just felt like every time I pick up a heart expansion, it's like time that I know that I'm using, as opposed to, you know, am I ever really gonna use? Am I gonna end this game with like 0 shurikens? And I think I actually do end the game with like 2 hearts. But that just means that I played correctly, because that means that I used every resource that was available to me. You know what I mean? And that's always something that I struggle with in these games, is sort of like proper utilization of resources. Another thing that you can do with Maxim mode is there's some other input combo you can do to full heal yourself, but that also costs hearts, not MP, strangely enough. And I don't ever do it here because I forgot how to do it, and I figured it would be more fun if I just played the game only healing after boss fights, or maybe like for a second at a save station or two. So here comes the Grim Reaper fight. The Grim Reaper fight is pretty brutal it's pretty brutal in general. What makes it easy in the normal game is that you have access to the Bible, which basically clears away all of his scythes and means you don't have to worry about it. The thing is, though, that Maxim is so fast and his sword comes out so fast that the scythes are not that big of a deal anyway, and as you can see, he can just rack up like a mega damage super fast on death. I also think that, well, I know that Death and all the other bosses in this game are subject to this like recalculation of their stats that's utilized for boss rush mode. And the consequence of that is that, unlike in the base game, Maxim actually can go through the castle in whatever order he wants, because he doesn't have to worry about like leveling. He doesn't have to worry about like, is this boss going to be like higher level or lower level? No. All bosses have their stats adjusted, so that way they're not like, you're not like two-shotting the bat and then like fighting everything else normally. Everything has like normalized health and does normalized damage, like the boss rush. So the consequence of that is that it seems to me like the Grim Reaper went down like super fast. Like, I don't think I've ever killed him that fast in the normal game. That could just be because of Maxim's the speed of his like sword swings, but it could also be a consequence of like the boss rush stat recalculation. I don't really know. Anyway, what's nice about this route is that it does get the Grim Reaper out of the way fast, so that way if something does go horribly wrong and I die, then I haven't wasted that much time. It's only been like 9 minutes. Although that's not really my like concern with this run. I don't really expect to die ever in this run. Maybe on Dracula, because Phase 2 of Dracula could do like mega damage. But generally I'm just trying to do this like pretty fast. I'm trying to take advantage of the somersault wherever I can think to, and otherwise just try to kill the bosses as quickly as possible without endangering myself too much. And that's actually probably the problem, is that I underutilize the shuriken, because like every time I'm not in sword range of a boss, like right here, I can see 2 spots already in this boss fight, 3 spots already in this boss fight, where I could have thrown a shuriken to maintain damage on him, but instead I'm just sort of like sitting back and waiting for him to finish. So right away, I think that could have been improved. And maybe, like, I guess what's nice is that if I don't use any MP and I don't take any damage, then I don't have any incentive to stick around and get the orb that falls down. So there, the fact that I didn't use the clone attack at all kind of saves me some time, because it means that I have MP to somersault my way out of here, which is what I want to do right now. Yeah, it's actually kind of liberating to go through Harmony of Dissonance without the without all like the restrictions and on all like the on all the passageways through the castle, because Harmony of Dissonance's castle is laid out in such a way that if you just looked at a map, it would seem super interconnected and super non-linear, but the fact of the matter is that the way that the exploration tools are divvied out and just the way that the obstacles are placed throughout the castle means that it's actually pretty restrictive. But in Maxim mode, you can just go wherever you want. That's fucking... okay. I think I just jumped too late there. Because I think I was trying to just jump over the slime. Maybe I could have slide kicked through it, but... maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have killed it. I don't know. I actually don't know. But yeah, Maxim, unlike Richter, is not immune to all status effects. He can get cursed, he can get poisoned, I'm pretty sure. He can get petrified, although I don't think that's ever going to happen. Harmony of Dissonance is pretty generous with the it's pretty lenient, I should say, with the status effects. I feel like I've only ever gotten petrified. There's only like one place in the whole game where I feel like I ever get petrified. And that's in the caverns. This guy fucking dies in 2 seconds. Yeah, this is just like the boss rush. Also, funny story about the boss rush. I have a couple of boss rush, or I will have a couple of boss rush videos up on this channel. I don't know if I'm going to get those up before or after this. But I have a boss rush for Juiced, and there's like a secret boss rush mode you can do where you play as Simon Belmont from Castlevania 1, which is pretty funny. Because it's not like Harmony of Dissonance style Simon Belmont, it's like Castlevania 1 style Simon Belmont with like Castlevania 1 style movement. But you can also do the boss rush as Maxim, except the problem with that is that activating the Maxim boss rush requires hitting L and R and then selecting the boss rush. The reason that's a problem is because for some fucking reason on the emulator that I have, it can't keep track of that many buttons being pressed at the same time. So like I'll hit L and R and A and then it'll just like start the boss rush like normal. So I maybe there's a workaround for that, but the thing is that Maxim mode already kind of feels like a... what am I doing? Okay. Maxim mode already kind of feels like a boss rush, because you're just kind of running through the whole castle as fast as you can, just killing all the bosses. So it's like a boss rush with more things going on between the bosses. So it's... I don't know. It's not that different from the base game, basically, is what it's from what Maxim mode kind of feels like in general, is what I'm saying. Like, I probably spend just as much time inside boss rooms as I do outside boss rooms in Maxim mode. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit much. Anyway, yeah, this is a great example of when you really need the shuriken, because one of the annoying things about Maxim mode is that Maxim doesn't have a crouching attack, where like he doesn't like crouch and then swing his sword. He'll crouch and then do a little like kick. And that's a problem because the kick has a much shorter range than the sword, whereas with Juiced just crouches and swings the whip. But for some bizarre reason, Maxim has this like weird little short range kick when he crouches. I don't know what that's about exactly. I don't know if they thought Maxim was like overpowered. I can't figure it out. Yeah, I think this boss coming up here would be a great... oh no, never mind. I was confused. I thought I was in the reverse castle. So here with the devil boss, you are finally given the tools to safely attack this guy. Trying to fight this guy on Juiced is like really, really dangerous, because he's a boss who is constantly like tempting you to jump at him. But if you do that, you are rolling the dice, because his flight path through the air is, in my opinion, highly unpredictable. Like, I've never been able to figure it out. So if every time you jump towards him or like jump at him, you are putting yourself in danger of him just like swaying through the air and like bonking into you. And that's especially bad if you're playing on hard mode, because on hard mode, the devil, like a lot of bosses, does like serious damage. So he'll hit you, he'll knock off like a third of your health, and he'll curse you. But with Maxim, because he attacks so fast, it's easy to like jump and then hit him a couple times and then immediately fall back down again to get out of like the danger zone. Whereas with Juiced, it's harder to get any kind of real value out of just like out of being in the air for like a couple seconds while attacking him. Yeah, Maxim mode is generally easier than the base game, just because you have of your movement, because you have access to like a full heal with your hearts if you don't feel like using the shuriken. But it does have a few idiosyncrasies or a few points of increased difficulty, like I mentioned already, not having the Bible on the Grim Reaper. And back there, you might have noticed that the Hunchback did 40 damage to me, whereas I'm pretty sure that at this point in the game, in the regular like juiced mode, that Hunchback would do like 1 damage. This is funny. It's like you Sonic roll up the stairs. Here, if I really wanted to, I could go back to a save station to full heal before the Pazuzu fight, but fuck that. I'm confident. Because Maxim is so fast that no damaging the bosses is actually easier on him than it is on Juiced. In my opinion. Again, a couple exceptions. Mostly the Grim Reaper because of the scythes. And it's actually... Not having the Bible in general makes the Pazuzu fight harder, specifically because the Bible clears away fireballs, and the Bible also clears away the devils when he summons them. And I've now played through Harmony of Dissonance with every single sub-weapon, and it's bizarre because none of the other sub-weapons seem to get rid of the fireballs. It's like just the Bible. So it's like the Bible is already the best sub-weapon in the whole game, and then they give it like this added like special functionality on what's honestly one of the harder boss fights in the game. I don't know why they did that exactly. Yeah, this is another thing that makes Maxim so good, is that he's very good at just skipping fights that you don't want to participate in. A lot like Richter in that regard. No EXP, no leveling up frees you from any kind of obligation you might otherwise have felt to fight a bunch of annoying enemies. So the Minotaur is probably a boss that's in danger of two-shotting me, and this is a boss that I think is easier on Maxim than one of many bosses. Okay, no, I'm not getting two-shot. Okay, easier on Maxim than like the Minotaur level 1 would be, because the Minotaur level 1 has an attack where the correct response is to duck. And on Juiced, you can attack while ducking at safe range, and on Maxim, you can't, so... But the Minotaur level 2 just swings his little ball and chain, and you just have to backdash, so pretty easy. Yeah, it's actually crazy how fast Maxim is. I actually don't know if this is faster than taking the elevator. I'm assuming that it is. Just because of how quickly Maxim does everything, I assume he dive kicks down faster than the elevator would go down, but I don't know for sure. It's actually pretty satisfying to like skip past all this shit that I would have felt like I had to fight if I were on Juiced, and I think that's actually the whole normal castle all finished. Yeah. Because you don't fight Maxim on Maxim, you only fight Dracula, which means that the end of the run is going to be in the reverse castle in like the central chamber. So that's the normal castle done. And now I'm going to kind of do the same route that I took through the normal castle again in the reverse castle, where I go sort of counterclockwise from the entrance down to the skeleton cave, down to the caverns, up to the up through the aqueduct to the clock tower in the Skyway, then back to the chapel, up to the throne room, and then down to the central chamber. Unfortunately, the Cyclops is accessible from the start in Maxim mode, so I don't have to go all the way down through. Actually, is the Cyclops accessible from the start in the base game too? I actually don't remember if there's like a pillar there or not in the base game. I feel like there is, because I feel like I tried going that way before and there was like a pillar in the way. Anyway, point is, in Maxim mode, Cyclops is available right there, so I don't have to like fuck around with the entrance. I don't have to fuck around with the invisible skeletons, or the Simon Wraiths, or all the dangerous enemies in the reverse entrance, the reverse Wailing Way, the reverse Marvel Gallery, etc., etc., etc. I can go just fight the Cyclops and go down to the caves and the caverns. Although what's interesting is that the recalculation for the boss's stats has also been applied to every enemy, so that's why those bone throwers aren't getting one shot, and that's why that's what makes Maxim mode actually non-linear and actually like you can just take it in any order, because there is no level consideration. There is no enemies that are numerically stronger than other enemies. It's purely a matter of positional efficiency and convenience. And, of course, this means that the Skull Knight, one of the biggest asshole bosses in the whole game, is extra dangerous. Although less dangerous than he would be if I was fighting him at, like, an appropriate level, juiced, I would say. And, like, the thing that makes the Skull Knight so hard is being able to react quickly during Phase 3, and Maxim... I guess the fact that Maxim is faster is nice, but it means that I can't duck under the laser to hit him, but as you can see, I don't need to, because I can just fucking jump over him. And I almost no-damage him, but I relaxed, basically, when I shouldn't have. That's one of the interesting things about fighting the Skull Knight in the boss rush compared to fighting the Skull Knight in the base game, is that obviously the Skull Knight is guarding the double jump in the base game, but in the boss rush and in Maxim mode, you have a double jump, so I think the intended response, the intended reaction to the laser attack is to do what I usually do in juiced mode, which is duck under it and keep whipping him, but if you have the double jump, you can just jump over him and attack him from behind. But again, you can't get too cocky with that, because he can just fucking jump at you. And if you don't slide kick under him in time, he'll just fucking hit you. And I think what makes that so frustrating is the fact that he can jump into you, but he can also just, like, fucking walk into you if he feels like it. Very, very, very annoying. Yeah, money obviously has no functionality in Maxim mode. I would argue money has, well... money has limited functionality in juiced mode, but now I'm talking about Maxim mode. So the Skull Knight and the Golem are two bosses that are like, mostly the Skull Knight is the boss that's hard in my opinion. The Golem is not that hard if you give it a lot of respect. Because if you fuck with it, if you don't respect its like fist attack, or if you let it corner you, then it will just kill you. But if you play cautiously around the Golem, then you'll just beat it. Although this is actually a good example of Maxim's lack of a crouch attack fucking him up, because one of the best ways to rack up a bunch of damage during Phase 2 of the Golem fight is to crouch on one of those high platforms and hit his glowing weak point, but you can't do that. You can't crouch and attack on Maxim. I just want to mention also, by the way, that for a second there I did something that I usually never do, which is I backdashed out of the way of a rock during the Falling Rocks attack. Normally you should never do that, because you just move so fast and it's so easy to accidentally oh, never mind, you could just attack. Okay, huh. Okay. What I was saying was that, like, normally I would want to sit on that platform and then crouch and attack to damage the glowing weak point, but apparently I can just stand on the platform and do the same thing, so what do you know? Maxim mode really kind of emphasizes how, or really reveals how much of the castle is like superfluous to the major set pieces of the game. By that I mean like boss fights. Like the treasury in either castle basically has no reason to exist if you're just doing boss fights. And there's not a whole lot in the treasury Anyway, now that I'm thinking about it, like, I don't know, there's some energy tanks, I guess. And for a while there, like, I wish that, I wish that these alternate modes were better about conveying whether or not energy tanks actually increase your health, because this is my, like with my main game footage, this is the second Maxim mode run that I've recorded, and in the first Maxim mode it was a lot longer, in large part because I went out of my way to get a bunch of energy tanks, but I'm fairly sure energy tanks don't do anything in Maxim mode, and the only reason I would think that they would is because in Richter mode they do, but in every other alternate mode of the game, they don't. Every other alternate mode in other Castlevania games, at least. Unless... I don't remember if they do in Julius mode or not. I think they do in Maria PSP mode. But Maria PSP mode is just a big fucking shit show all around. So here, I kind of wanted to conserve my MP to somersault over this part because of how annoying it is, but ultimately that didn't end up being practical because I wanted to somersault over all of the fishmen in the aqueduct, and with Maxim's triple jump, it's not that hard to just kind of like triple jump through the whole spike section there and just kind of hope that you can land on one of the pendulums by the time your jump is over, which is kind of what I was trying to do there, but I think I screwed up. I don't know if I got unlucky or I screwed up. Yeah, this is actually insane. This is when Maxim's really high attack speed comes in handy, because you can just fucking stun lock this guy and just shred him in like 2 seconds. That was so fast. I guess in Juiced mode you have to worry about getting Dracula's remains, which you don't have to do in Maxim mode. I was just thinking about like the functionality of other parts of the castle. Okay, yeah, this is a boss where having like infinite shurikens would be really nice, because as you can see, damaging all 4 sectors is nice, and like not having to worry about the core being close enough to the platform to attack it safely would also be nice. Although again, like Maxim can get more mileage out of these individual jumps than Juiced can. So ultimately that was pretty damn fast. I actually didn't really need any more shurikens there, so never mind. I think I just bumped my microphone. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Sorry, as you may be able to tell, I have a new setup, and I'm kind of getting used to it. I can't move around as much, because before I was just using a headset microphone, and then I could like, if I have a headset mic, I can like lean back in my chair, I can like shift around, I can like do whatever I want. But with this, it's like I have to make sure to not like move as much. So it's actually less comfortable, even though it is going to lead to better audio quality. This is another fight where a Bible would be really nice, because this is actually like one of the dumbest fights in the whole game is Phase 2 of the Shadow, because the sword, out of all of the bosses in the game, the sword is the absolute worst at conveying like what it's gonna do, and when it's gonna do it. It's worse, I would say, than the Devil, because the Devil's flight path does at least seem to sort of adhere to a timing. There's like a rhythm to it, kind of, where it's like, you know, he's not going to be in the air for too long. But with the Shadow, with Phase 2 of the Shadow, it's like the sword just goes wherever it wants and does whatever it wants, whenever it wants, and whether you're in danger or not is like, there's literally no way to tell. Because sometimes it can seem like you're in danger, and you might want to like jump over it or slide under it, but then it turns out, oh no, wait, it actually wasn't going to go all the way to the left or right, it was going to go down randomly or up randomly, and in your attempt to avoid taking damage from it, you actually put yourself in a position where you did take damage from it. So, very, very, very frustrating. I actually don't know how much damage the Maxim like super attack does in Maxim mode. So I don't know if I'm necessarily missing out on a lot of potential like fast boss kills or not. It probably really helps for something like the Legion boss, where I need to like damage 4 like sectors, or I guess or like, yeah. But beyond that, I don't know. Am I done? I think I'm on the way to the final boss. Wow, okay. I always forget how fast this is. Because I keep on, like... I just keep... Because, like, there's whole sections of the castle that I just never go to, so it doesn't feel like I'm at the end. But, oh, no, right, I have one more Minotaur to fight. Right. Right. Yeah, I forgot about this. I often forget about this boss, because this boss was not incorporated in my standard route through the castle until the very end, where I'd like fight it right before I fought like Maxim Dracula in my standard route, which is not really what the game wants you to do. The game wants you to fight this guy early because he's guarding the Wind Book, which, depending on what sub-weapon you have, can be really, really good or completely useless. Because I was using the Bible in most of my runs, skipping that guy was not a big deal because Wind Bible's not good, but if you have, like, the Sacred Fist, you want to fight that guy as soon as possible. Sorry, I'm talking about the base game again instead of Maxim mode, but... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Turn around, Shovatar. Okay, there we go. So, fortunately, there's no... Like I said, there's no... You don't have to, like, fight Juiced instead of fighting Maxim. You just have to fight Dracula. But the trade-off there is that I'm pretty sure that if Dracula hits me, he's gonna fuck me up pretty bad. And they skipped to Phase 2 of Dracula, but I don't actually know why, because I think Maxim would be perfectly fine at fighting Phase 1 of Dracula. I can't think of anything he like Phase 1 would throw at him that he wouldn't be able to handle. But the Shuriken is really good here, as you can see, because it hits Dracula like 3 times. And look at that. 2 hearts at the very end, and I'm spazzing out in the corner. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So that's Maxim mode. Much like Harmony of Dissonance in general, it's like... Usually when I finish playing a Castlevania game, I'm like, okay, I usually like burn myself out on them. Where I'm like, that's it, I don't have to like deal with that again. But Harmony of Dissonance has this weird like addictive quality to it. And I do think I'm kind of all burnt out on the base game, but like Maxim mode is the kind of thing that I feel like I could just come back to like whenever I want and just like try to play it again, maybe try to get a faster time. I was kind of hoping to do under half an hour, but I kind of need to move on. I've already spent like way too much time on Harmony of Dissonance, way more time than I ever intended to. And I'm sort of behind the pace that I'd like to be on. So I may come back to Maxim mode at some point in the far, far future, but for now, this is good enough. You hopefully got a good idea of what it's like, what it looks like. If you ever play Harmony of Dissonance, I would highly recommend this, with no like caveats or asterisks the way I would with the alternate modes in Symphony of the Night. This is pure, high-octane, high-skill, fast-paced fun. There's like always stuff you can improve, there's always stuff you can do more quickly. It's a big barrel of monkeys, and I don't know what's coming next, but I hope you enjoy.